Hey everyone. We're here with Tamlin from Vega. She'll be doing a talk on how to create and launch a Bitcoin and USD futures market on Vega. Once she starts talking, can you guys confirm that you can hear her?
Hi everyone. Hello. You guys hear me?
Yep, you can get started.
Great, thank you. So hi everyone, I'm so excited to be with you today. Today I'm going to be demonstrating a newly released feature that's just been released onto our testnet. And this is about how to design and launch a new cash-settled futures market using our REST APIs. So just a little bit about me. I traded energy derivatives for about 15 years, and then back in early 2018, I joined the founding team at Vega. So for those who don't know what Vega is, it's a next generation decentralized derivatives protocol so that global derivatives markets, which as you guys probably know are huge in scope, size and potential, can actually run on public blockchain infrastructure. So Vega sits as a sidechain to the major collateral blockchains such as Ethereum, and Vega is a single purpose blockchain that is designed from the ground up to be very performant. So in terms of what I'd like to cover today, by the end of the session, my aim is that you will have learned how to create and launch a Bitcoin US dollars futures market on Vega. I'd like to spend the first about 10 minutes discussing why permissionless market creation is really exciting and specifically how you do it on Vega. Then I'm going to go into about 10 minutes of a demo where I'll be showing how to launch a Bitcoin US dollar futures market on Vega testnet using our REST APIs, and I'll try and leave some time at the end for questions. So let's talk about why permissionless market creation is exciting. So for me, this feature cuts to the very heart of why Vega is so revolutionary. So while blockchains are great at improving efficiencies in the trade lifecycle, and you can see evidence of this by the capital efficiency that you can actually get on Vega from our atomic on-chain margining and our live settlement, for me, the real power is actually the potential for reclaiming financial markets. So at the moment, markets are run primarily by centralized entities that create big walled gardens around their domain, and they completely control access and even usage of their data. So because of the high barriers to competition, the landscape is monopolistic and consequently fees are excessive. And what all this means is that even though the derivatives markets are huge in the world, in my opinion, they're not as huge as they actually could be. There's been a rapid growth in SMEs over the last 10 years, and then also with just the broader trends in improvements of financial literacy globally. I really believe that there's a lot of potential for people and businesses to access and participate in markets that are open, cheaper, and more targeted to their needs. So that's why we are designing the technology and the economic protocols that open up decisions such as what markets get created. I don't know if you guys know, but the CME has a list of markets that they choose not to create after conducting sometimes like a whole year of due diligence. And these are often markets that could be very economically useful to an industry, but it's just not either worth their time or doesn't fit into their particular business plan. So let's dive into the market creation process. There's broadly 4 steps to creating a market on Vega. So firstly, you want to identify a demand, and that's really about identifying a real financial risk management needs. So an example in your everyday life might be that if you're going on holiday in, 3-6 months' time, if only, and you were concerned about the exchange rate of where you were going to travel to, a really simple example is you might want to lock that exchange rate in ahead of time. And of course, if you translate that up to major businesses and even small and medium enterprises, there's financial risk basically across the board in business operations, and that's really because there's financial risk across pretty much every aspect of the supply chain. So I'll go into that a little more in a second. But second, you also want to involve the stakeholders in the market. So this is the demand side, but it's also liquidity providers and adjacent services. You may want to involve them really early on, I would say, because they're going to have a say in what happens in the next step, which is designing the instrument. So this is about making a whole bunch of decisions around what financial product will be useful and how it should be configured. And then ultimately, of course, there's the launch of the actual market. And we're going to show you today how sort of easy that is to do using Vega's on-chain governance. So let's talk about the first step, identifying demand. So there's a lot I could say on this topic, but basically I tend to think of 3 areas of growth potential. So in our current world, there's a whole bunch of emerging industries that are underserved. And we saw that really clearly earlier this year with the rapid onset of the pandemic, obviously. And on Vega, it would have been really trivial to spin up some kind of pandemic index derivatives. Another area is thinking about extending to derivatives to excluded people. So an observation that I'd make is that really global markets are actually a bit of a fallacy, in my opinion. We have a lot of interconnected large markets, but they're really only accessible to sort of few wealthy people and businesses. And so truly global markets don't really exist. And so being able to extend derivatives out to a bunch of the sort of excluded marketplaces has a lot of potential, and you only need to look at the growth in the Indian Stock Exchange index options over the last few years to get some insights into how much demand there is for that. And then another area that I find really interesting is about repackaging risk. And risk is something that is very inherent, as I said, in businesses and even in our personal lives. And so the ability to create quite cheap, quick markets on Vega permits smaller targeted markets. And I think that's an area of real potential and interest as well. And just so you know, every entry on this slide has actually been suggested to me by traders and market makers that would be actually interested in participating in these markets. So the next step in the market creation process is involving stakeholders. So as I mentioned earlier, there's natural demands for the financial market is a really important part of what you want to think about and the people that you want to involve. You know, and typically I envision that communities with financial risk will contribute closely or even launch their own markets. For example, Luxor is a large mining pool in the US. They're developing a spot market for hash price, and hash price futures could very easily, quickly and cheaply be launched by their community. So on Vega, there are 2 key stakeholders who are actually incentivized through the protocol itself to participate in building healthy markets. And they are on-chain liquidity providers. These are entities that will help bootstrap the market and grow it. And there are governance token holders who will be deciding and voting on whether your proposed market should actually be created. And then there's other stakeholders, which may include industry bodies, data providers, you know, wallet services, Oracle providers, on-ramps, etc. So the third step is designing an instrument and a market. So at the core of all Vega markets is a financial product, which is very simply a definition of how assets and cash are exchanged in the future depending on certain outcomes. So on Vega's testnet right now, we have available a single product, and that is a cash-settled future. We'll be building out this native product suite to include options and perpetual swaps, etc. And as we do, you'll be able to create markets that actually compose 2 or more of the built-in products. And then eventually we'll be creating a domain-specific language, which we're calling a smart product language, so you can codify your own arbitrarily complex products. So once you've chosen which product is best for your market, you turn that into an instrument by specifying certain product parameters. So this can include expiry date time, or your underlying, or the settlement asset of market. And then the next step is to consider the risk model appropriate for the market and propose relevant parameters for that. So these are used by Vega in the on-chain atomic margin calculations. It's really important to get these right so that the markets can achieve an optimal balance of capital efficiency and safety. And then finally, I'll just step through this, apologies. And then finally, we need to choose some values for our various market-based parameters. And these define things such as how traders actually trade your instruments. So what is the tick size? What is the trading mode? And we currently offer on-chain limit order books, but we're also constantly designing and building out the suite of price determination methods. And this will include frequent batch options and perhaps some sort of AMM limit order book hybrid and so forth. So in the future, a market creator will be able to choose from that suite. And so there you have it. We have our instrument and our market definition, and it's time to launch our market. So how do we do this? Well, there's some off-chain things that you want to think about when you're launching a market, and there's also some on-chain work that needs to be done. So with the off-chain work, I think I somewhat covered this earlier when I spoke about stakeholders, but I think it's so important, I really want to remind again, like you want to prepare your proposal and then discuss this with Vega's governance community, because they're the ones who'll be voting either way on your market. Then it's time to submit your proposal to Vega's blockchain. So there will be a voting period, and the vote will either pass, yay, or it will fail. And if it fails, you want to think about, you need to actually propose and go through that cycle again. You actually need to re-propose a new market. So you probably want to speak to the governance community and figure out what went wrong. So finally, let's take a peek at what the on-chain market lifecycle is. So when I demo this, you'll be able to see me go through these steps hopefully. So we have a governance proposal, and then the governance proposal goes to a governance vote. And then that governance vote passes if enough tokens vote, so the participation rate is high enough, and that enough of the tokens that voted say yes to this market. And in that case, great, we have created our market, and it will actually launch into an opening auction mode. And that will be just a call period that extends and is able to collect liquidity onto the book. It can be useful for price and liquidity discovery of the market. And then at the end of that call period, the market will launch into the default trading mode. And as I said, at the moment on Vega Testnet, that is a continuous trading mode. Something important to note is that when you submit your governance proposal, you actually have a say in what the closing time of the proposal is. This is subject to a minimum time period defined by the network. And the same goes for having a say of when your market is enacted. So you'll see when we prepare the governance proposal, which we're about to do, that we need to specify each of these. Right, so I think it's time. Let's prepare a proposal. So hopefully you guys can see this. This is an example of the kind of format of data that you need to send as part of your proposal. And you can find this in our REST documentation. So remember how we built up to a feature. So we started with the product. So here you can see that the product, built up to a market, we started with the product. So the product that we've chosen here is the inbuilt cash settled future. And it requires certain fields to be specified. And in fact, if you have a look, you can see that the assets, for example, is specified and there's a maturity specified. And by specifying these, you are creating an instrument. And actually, you'll see the commented out code here that I included is to show that in the future, actually another important part of the specification of parameters will be specifying what Oracle is used for the settlement at expiry. And actually within that Oracle data structure will contain the maturity of the market. And that's coming soon in Testnet, but just not quite there yet. Great. And then the next thing that you need to do is you need to make this a tradable instrument by choosing a risk model that's appropriate for your market and parameterizing that. So if you have a look here, you can see that there's a log normal, excuse me, yes, the log normal risk model has been chosen for this market. It's actually as I said, we've got cash settled futures at the moment, and we've got a log normal risk model that's appropriate for the cash settled futures. And so as a market creator, what I need to do is think about appropriate levels for each of these. And if you're interested in digging into that, I highly recommend you hop on our forums or our Discord, and our lead quant, David, is always happy to discuss such things. And then finally, to look at the market parameters, we're going to choose continuous trading as the trading mode. I'm going with a pretty small tick size. And you just need to specify decimal places, which is used in the front end for the degree of accuracy. Just a couple more notes. We also have the opportunity to specify the auction duration and for the opening auction. And then the next thing to think about is the governance parameters. And you'll notice here this closing timestamp, which refers to when the proposal period for that governance proposal closes. Normally, you'd expect this to be in the order of days. This granularity is actually in seconds. And just for fun, for this week, we've set the minimum amount that this needs to be just down to 10 seconds. So, so that you can create some quick markets, you can vote on them, and you can see them being created in the testnet. And likewise for the enactment timestamp, we've also set the minimum period of that to 10 seconds as well. So we can play around with that. It'll be helpful when we come to coding. So we've got our governance proposal. We're actually ready to go. So what I'm going to do is actually switch away from here, and I'm going to go and find where I have some code set up. So hopefully you guys can see that. Please ping me if you can't. Okay, so what we have here is a Python script, and it's just sending commands via our REST APIs. And this is setting up that new governance proposal for the market. So you might recognize some of the fields here around the closing timestamp, the enactment timestamp. Just for now, you can ignore the validation timestamp. It's actually relevant when you're proposing a new asset on Vega, but you can just set it to something less than the closing timestamp. So we've got our new market here. As I said, I'm going to go with some very low tick size. I thought we'd make a Bitcoin DAI futures market with a November expiry. So let's set the maturity date to the end of November, which should be the 30th. The asset here refers to the settlement asset, and that is DAI in this particular case. And actually, all the cash settled futures markets on Vega at the moment are direct futures. And let's see, we've got a market name for ourselves. I've chosen some risk parameters, chosen quite a high volatility just to keep the market safe-ish. And I've got the tau. So the tau just represents how often you're rerunning the margin calculations, and I've set that to an hour. In reality, Vega's blockchain does that at a sort of sub-second level, but again, just sort of to keep the market safe, I'm expanding that out a bit. Great. So what we're going to then do is we're going to serialize this. So we're going to prepare this proposal in the right format. And then we're going to sign and submit this proposal. So at the moment, we're using a hosted wallet server. But within a few weeks, you guys will be able to interact with Vega from your own wallets. It's just for convenience at the moment, development convenience. And then, so we're going to be then just waiting to see how our proposal has been going, check in on it. But then the next major step we need to do is we need to vote on the proposal, because the proposal is not going to pass if no one votes on it. So I'm obviously going to vote yes. I expect that I'm going to be the only person voting on this proposal, so it should pass. And then, so I'm going to sign and submit that. And then we're going to just wait again for a little bit, see how this goes. And then we're going to check the markets on Vega and see if our new market exists. So I'm very excited by this. I'm going to just run the code. Let's see how we go. So I should just say over on the right is a front-end version of, it's our reference front-end, so our Vega console. And I've just set up a view to show, this is a list of all the futures currently on the testnet. This is a list of all the governance proposals. So what we should see, I'm just going to refresh this just to get it ready. What we should see when I run this script is we should see a new proposal come through. And it should be an open proposal. Well, let's just change my, there we go, back to this workspace. So we should see a new proposal come through, and it should be an open proposal, potentially, although it might not come through quick enough and it might just get enacted quite quickly because I'll be the only person voting on it. And then hopefully we'll see the market created as well. So I'll just pop this up full screen. I'll just get this to see. Okay, some maturities here. So we should see our 30th of November maturity in here as well. So let's get this there. Great. Okay, prepare the proposal, sign the transaction and send it. Now we wait and see if anyone else is voting on it. Is it going to succeed or fail? I just want to say, if you guys want to follow along with this or give this a go, please please ping me. I'm really happy to add you to our testnet. Right, this is looking promising. It looks like we've got an active market. So let's see if we see it over here. And again, this may see another little refresh. I don't see another. Do we see it? I don't see it, so I'm just going to hit refresh on that. Oh, I can pop back to my Liquidity 2020 workspace. Let's get this full screen again. Great. Okay, great. So you can see here this BTC died November 20 new market proposal, and it's been enacted. So in that time period, the vote was received, and obviously, actually, if we scroll off to the left, you can see that it received one vote because I'm the only one voting, and I therefore was 100% of the vote. On the testnet, this sort of success rate is set to be, it needs to get at least 66% in order for the market to pass and be created. And so then if we go up here, we should be able to see the market now created. So yep, we can see the Bitcoin DAI November 20 futures market. There's no trading at the moment on it. It's an empty order book. But I'm just going to move this over. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. Let's have a look. Right, I'm actually going to create a new workspace for this market. Easy to do. Oh, wow. Okay, so we've got some order book volume here. So that's a little bit exciting. I'm going to pull up a positions window so that you can see what happens. You can see it's actually operating as a real market. Just a bit of a squish screen at the moment, so apologies for not being able to read this very well. But let's have a look. This is some of my other positions on. So let's do playing around a bit earlier. So as I put a position on this, you should be able to see some open volume come in. Why don't I just put, I'm going to do a market order, and I'm just going to buy one of these. Nope, buy one of these. And great, let's see what happens. So you can see that I've just done a trade, and I have an open volume of one in this market of this Bitcoin DAI futures market. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I think I'm extraordinarily excited by this. I don't see much else or anything else out there like this. I'm really excited by the potential that this has. Big shout out to our community member Bitcoin Bill, who's been turning his liquidity bots very rapidly onto this new market so that we can see some action. Great. Okay, so I'm going to just briefly head back to the presentation. Yeah. Oh dear, I think I've lost my spot. I'm not going to sit you through the entire presentation again. I'm just going to go see if I can find the last slide I wanted to show you, which is really just an invitation actually to get involved. And yeah, we have some really good resources to help you on your way if you want to start playing around with this kind of functionality on the Vega testnet. We have really rich APIs. And we've really designed Vega to feel to a developer like connecting into a centralized exchange. So, but the really cool thing, of course, is it's blockchain data. There's a whole lot of transparent data as well. So there's some real fun to be had at the moment. And so, yeah, you can see we're participating in ETH Online at the moment. So if you go check out the docs that we're sharing over there, that's a useful way to sort of get started. Come and hang out with us on our community forums, the founding team, the engineers. There's a whole bunch of us that hang out in there. We really love to hear from anyone who's excited about what Vega's doing. If you want to do this, please join our testnet. I will monitor this. If you go sign up now, I will monitor that and fast track anyone who signs up tonight. And I'm also going to run some mini hacks on market creation in the next few weeks, which I'm really excited about. So it'll just be very informal. Join me on Zoom and we can play around and experiment using this functionality that I've shown you today. So thanks a lot for your time. I would love to turn over to questions. I'm not 100% sure how to do that. So, I see questions in the back. I think we head back. There. I'm just going to move off my video. Right, I can see the chat. Cool. I think there's also one in the Ask a Question section. Okay, let me start over there. So why do we need to put a proposal to make a market? Why can't we just stake some tokens and provide liquidity for a specific market? Seems like a rather forced mechanism to stand. Yeah, it's a good question. I think, ultimately, there's a lot that goes into defining the quality of a market. And, if we want Vega to be a network where quality markets are run, and you saw actually, there were a lot of decisions for me to make as a sort of market inventor in this step. And I think that the governance is really vital for maintaining the integrity of the network, basically, as a place that runs really good quality markets. Yeah, that's probably my primary answer to that. I think, there's definitely, your point about, providing liquidity as part of the way of sort of underpinning the market and putting your own money behind it and saying this is worth doing. That's definitely a part of our design as well. And it's not something I touched on today, but all market proposers will be required to put some liquidity stake into whatever market that they're proposing. And then others will be able to join permissionlessly the liquidity protocol, the liquidity protocol of that market and be rewarded accordingly. Right, I see some of my team are hanging out and also helping answer some. If anyone feels their question hasn't been answered, would you be able to copy it into the Ask a Question and you'll be able to see? I see someone's asked about, and Barney's answered that we can create derivatives from pretty much anything that you can measure. And it's really exciting. It really bends my mind as a trader to think of all of the sort of data out there. And in fact, with the very generalized Oracle framework, there's ways that you can get sort of signed HTTPS, data feeds into Vega as an Oracle. And that really just sort of blows my mind, all the different options of creating financial, instruments basically on Vega. Anything else? Let's go back. Cool.
Awesome. So I think we are out of time. Do you have any final words?
No, just please come and hang out with us and, help us on this journey of reshaping financial markets. We're really, really passionately excited by this.
Awesome. This was a really great talk. Thanks so much. We're going to transition to our next session now.
Thank you.